Hello to my water signs Cancer, Scorpio and Pisces. Welcome to the Scorpio full moon. You'll find the timestamps for your rising signs listed below. Hello Cancer Rising, welcome to your reading for the Scorpio full moon. How are you? I know it's been a little while. I hope that eclipse season was okay for you. I hope that you're feeling wrapped up, and I hope that you're feeling in a space that you're safe enough that a lot of that enforced healing that we encountered over the last month is doing its work. I think that that was one of the most exquisite, and I hope that I wasn't preempting that with my astrological interest. However, I don't think that I am. I think that this work allows me to witness the cycle, witness the moment, and it also gives us some great strategy that eventually this too shall pass. Personally, the last month has been really tricky for me. There's been so much unconscious wounding that I've needed to look at, and I've been going over all of these different face-offs, and it's been hectic and it's been unstable. You know, that eclipsed moon, that eclipsed sun, you can't trust them. You can't trust an eclipse. There's going to be something that comes in without your wanting it or knowing about it, or there are things that are going to fall away and have to leave without you wanting that either. What I really love about this moon coming up, Cancer Rising, it's a full moon that we can trust. We can stand underneath it and we can go through our process, our ritual of release, which is what we tend to do with a full moon, and know that we're in safe hands. This is a Scorpio full moon too, so this is another encouragement to dredge up some stuff and to kiss it the F goodbye. But this time, we're safe. I hope that that helps you by me just saying that to you. We're safe at this one. Hopefully that can give you a sense of grounding that has been unavailable for the last month or so. Now, I'm releasing these on quite a special day. On the 21st of April, which is today, if I get on my own back and get this out in time, there is a very specific, very auspicious conjunction that's occurring in our galaxy. It hasn't happened for maybe 13 or 14 years. I'm talking about the conjunction between Jupiter and Uranus. This hasn't happened, as I said, since 2010 through to 2011. The last time that these two planets came together, a conjunction just means that they're at the same degree from our perspective of the galaxy. So it's like it's a melding of feeling. The last time that this happened, it happened 3 times. It was something to do with the retrograde motion of both planets too. There was something about, from our perspective, them meeting up, but then looking like they were moving backwards, but then meeting up again, and then meeting up again. It was pretty wild. And when I cast my mind back to that period of history, it's really obvious in my life and on my birth chart. This was all in retrospect too. That wasn't a time that I was so focused on learning about this stuff as well. But I sometimes like to use astrology in that way, particularly after an eclipse season such as this, which was so demanding of our retrospect, which was so demanding of our internal private work. This kind of, sky mapping is really handy in retrospect, and you'll often find some pretty pertinent moments. I'm going to explain to you the conjunctions, so as much as I can move past that astrological thickness, that sort of language. Jupiter means hope. Jupiter means growth and expansion. If you can memorize the image of the planet, which is the giant gas monster, just think about gas and expanding and size. It's a pretty blessed planet as far as astrology is concerned. Everything that it touches, it wants more of. It emphasizes that idea. Now, Uranus is about rebellion. It's about revolution. Think about the history of the planet, and how before Uranus was discovered, our consciousness thought that Saturn was the outer limits of our galaxy. It took the technological advancement of telescopic imagery to discover that Uranus existed and was a part of our solar system. And so you can see that sort of rebellion, flipping the table on convention. So think about hope and optimism attached to that idea of revolution. And think about your life in 2010 moving into 2011. I know that it doesn't occur in everyone's personal life. That's just not how astrology works. It sort of hits people in different ways, and especially with the outer planets, that's what Uranus is. However, personally speaking, it's highly obvious what was occurring in my life and what encouragement I was getting and what hope and what optimism I was feeling from Jupiter as far as my rebel spirit. Think about your life. Think about 2010 into 11. If you can hearken back to that long ago and think about your outlook on life, think about your mindset, think about what was maybe occurring for you in regard to your spirituality as well. These conjunctions happened in Aries, then in Pisces. So we're looking at your most public-facing self, your career. We're also looking at your spiritual leanings, your search for meaning on the spiritual plane. There may have been a moving away from old thought patterns or old systems or different ways that you used to approach those sorts of topics into something new. If there was Cancer rising, then this moment is kind of like a crescendo and kind of like a final chapter. So that's kind of a really nice way to look at it too, because sometimes it feels really nice to turn the page, doesn't it? And we know that sometimes we've got to do a bit of revision and read that chapter again, but every so often it's such a powerful act to turn that heavy page and to be like, right, done, thank you, lesson learned, moving on. Feels really nice. Fast forward to 2024, this conjunction, this coupling between Jupiter and Uranus is in Taurus now. So we're switching over from your spiritual house into your 11th house, which is your friendships, which is your humanitarian spirit, your community. So what I can kind of hope for you, and remember, this is an outer conjunction, so it's going to happen on the 20th, it's going to happen today, but that doesn't mean that it's today or never. This is starting a new 14-year story. This is the beginning of something for you. But we name it here in this moment. Maybe if you've got a diary, you can just write it down. But think about your humanitarian spirit. Think about where your heart leans to as far as when it looks out and assesses the group. And when you start to think about different modalities or processes that you can contribute to that will aid some sense of justice or some sense of healing as far as your humanitarian self goes. This is really nice for me, Cancer rising. I think that this is really optimistic for you. We know that the sign Taurus is really grounded and really sturdy, and that's probably something that your friends would remind you about yourself as well, Cancer rising. You're a really good friend. And this revolution in this 11th house, this encouragement from Jupiter is really, again, encouraging you to lean into finding your people or registering that perhaps you're slowly becoming enveloped in your people, and the languages that you've been working on and that you're offering are being received. They're being picked up by folks around you. This concept, and you're Cancer rising too, so I'm sure that, there's probably been more than one person that has said to you, "Oh, I've never told anyone that." What we are revolutionizing, perhaps, Cancer Rising, is how much that takes from your spirit, how much that takes from your energy. And I'm not saying shy away from this, because you're savvy and you can feel it right now, Cancer Rising. You can feel that there are so many people that are in pain right now. You can feel that collective weight that we're living under right now. You're very sensitive, and I want you to be proud of that fact. So this is an encouragement for you to roll up your sleeves and to get to work, but it's also a real encouragement for you to just register how much that's taking from you and what pathways and avenues you have to fill it up again. Because I know from experience that when you give and give and give and give and give and give, and it's not being given back, or you're not taking the offer back, this isn't to say that people are being selfish. This is something about maybe a single focusedness of like, oh, I've got to show up for this person, or this person's given me a ring to do that, so I'll organize that, and I'll organize this, and I'll get there, and I'll be productive, I'll be present. I mean, that's very Cancer of you, is to want to be useful. You know, it's sort of, you've got that in common with Capricorn. Remember, there's that kind of like usefulness, what's the word I'm looking for? You want to be useful, Cancer Rising, but you're going to be useful when you can accept the offer from other people of help and support and interest as well. Think about Jupiter growing or expanding upon your friendships, your sense of community, where you belong. That's optimism that I can stand by. I really can. Let's head back to the moon real quick. So in this moment of moon ritual that we're going to enact together, I'm going to grab my tarot as I speak about this with you. In this moment, Cancer Rising, we're going to focus in on Scorpio, which we know is incredibly intense, incredibly deep, really sexy as well. FYI, if that's important to you or not, that's, you pick up what lands. But Scorpio is pretty hot. And so a full moon and that idea of release at a full moon in Scorpio, that lights up your fifth house of your self-expression, your access to pleasure, your access to a good time. I mean, it's up to you what you'll do with that. But you can trust the moon. You can trust the moon to open that channel, Cancer Rising, if it's been lackluster for a time. I know that feeling of the feeling of being untouched sort of expands and grows over time. And after a time, the idea of being touched can become really overwhelming. I know that from very personal experience. There's a longing that some of us have to connect, to be amongst it. Some folks are, that's one of their languages. One of their love languages is the physical act of making love. Not everyone, some are. And if it's been a long time between drinks, the idea of like even going there, when you're trapped in the mind, that's a big metal cage. So maybe because we can trust this moon is giving us consent, perhaps we can give this moon consent to Cancer Rising. If it's been difficult for you lately, full respect, I completely get it. If this was one offer that you wanted to take from this moment in a trusting, safe space, then I would do as you will. I'd think about Scorpio and the intensity. I'd think about Scorpio and the depth of feeling, the depth of connection. I'd think about physical love as a sacred act. I'd think about physical love as a magical act of witchcraft too. It's an interesting culture we're living through. It's funny to be my age as well and to register my relationship with my own sexuality and how that's changed over time. And in its current state, I know it's temporary, because this is not where I will exist forever. I know that I've got a lot of trust to retrieve for myself around that topic. I also know that I'm working on it. So maybe with this, off the back of this like optimistic, rebellious feeling that we're getting from Jupiter and from Uranus, perhaps that can be siphoned into this moment with a moon that we can trust, that we have consent, that we give consent. There's something about a physical reconnection that might be needed at this time. I know that I've been so cerebral for the past month. I've been really cerebral and it's been affecting my chest. My anxiety has been really present right here. And I'm sure that there are different ways to mediate that and to remedy that. And I wonder if there maybe might be for you as well. It's been difficult not to be able to trust the moon for you, Cancer Rising. The moon's your guiding light. That's where you look. That's where you look to feel safe. When it's eclipsed, and you'll probably remember this as time goes on, whenever it's eclipse season, it's okay, honey. It's okay to feel unstable because you're a Cancer Rising. Your guiding light is busy. I've got 3 5s on right the front here that I just wanted to bring in before I read the ones that I've pulled you. I also have a 5, the other one, the missing link. But this moon at 4 degrees of Scorpio will be lighting up the 5 of Cups. And so this is our grief card. This is our moment to wear black and to sit in that moment of sorrow. The sun is at the 5 of Pentacles, which reminds me of a time when I didn't feel welcome, when I felt shut out and there was nowhere that I really belonged. The sun and the moon are in a harsh aspect with Pluto in Aquarius, and that's the 5 of Swords, which is a strong reminder to drop the fucking chop when it's done with. There are things that you don't need to engage with any longer. And I dare say, Cancer Rising, this might be an internal pattern. And look at that, 5, 5, 5. Now, I'm not a numerologist, as you're all well aware, but I do know that 5, 5, 5 means change. I do know that Uranus means change. I do know that eclipses mean change too. We're going to mark this moment together right here, right now, Cancer Rising. We're going to change. There's the moon. I love that the moon gives us room to be contradictory. I love that the moon encourages us to act from a feeling rather than a thought, or rather than from propriety. I love that the moon, sometimes whether we like it or not, urges our body to feel it, urges the feeling to come up, urges a little bit of instability. I really like that. Sometimes it can be tricky because people can lose themselves by the light of a full moon. You probably witnessed that too, but you're a Cancer Rising. You know how to work with that tide, that ebb and that flow. This is a full moon that we can trust, Cancer Rising. So I really encourage you to let it out. There's probably something about defenses that can drop a little bit at this time. That's the other 5, completing the circle. The 5 of Wands is about being defensive and is about sort of needing to protect ourselves and protect our honor. But perhaps you can let it slip every now and again that maybe you're a little bit nuts. It's okay to be a little bit nuts from time to time. You hold it together, and let's face it, we're all holding it together. It's tight as a drum right now. Every now and again, the 5 of Wands reminds you that it's actually talking about a bit of magic and a bit of passion. So you can sort of let some of that out. This balancing act that you've been undertaking, Cancer Rising, is something that I just wanted to sort of register right at the end of this to let you know how proud of you I am and everyone around you is. You've been really holding it together, and there's been so much pressure, and there's been so much underappreciated labor that you've been engaging in. At this time, and let's look at that Five of Wands again. It's a Leo card, so let's think about Leo. Leo's pretty unafraid to lose it from time to time. But they're not losing it though, they're actually letting it out. I think sometimes the sign Cancer has such an ability to encourage and to cajole and to coax other people to feel it. They can be a bit cagey sometimes with their own the size of their emotions. There's something about rejection that they fear, and that's the defensiveness. That Five of Wands is maybe reminding you that you've got pincers. So in this deep moment of reconnection with feeling, Cancer rising, check yourself, but don't check yourself with your mind and limit it, but just check yourself about how you've been talking to yourself about your feelings and how you've been processing those feelings. If it's attack, it's fine, babe. That's why you're a crab. Scorpio kind of wants you to go a little deeper, go underneath that initial defense mechanism and see what else is there, what else can come out, what can be teased out. Try and use this Scorpio vibe to tease some of that out. Maybe get back in touch with the body. You know, the moon in astrology can be representative of our body. You know, it's where we came from, how our body was incarnated into this life. The physical self's needs. Not to be a sleazebag, but I'm coming back around to that pleasure zone. The fifth house has us back in touch with our physical self. I know not everyone has a sexuality. Some people don't think about that. Some people do, and some people feel disconnected when they are disconnected from that facet of themselves. Much love to you, Cancer rising. Thanks for being here with me. I know it's been a little while. If you're still here with me, please put a scorpion in the comments in honor of this big, bright Scorpio full moon. I can read your birth chart. They look like this little guy here over at umaruby.com. So if you've not met me before on Zoom, make yourself an appointment and book a spirit reading. I'll draw you up a chart and I'll read it to you. If I have read for you before and you'd like to see me again, head to the Back for More tab and you can choose a truth, growth, magic, love or femme reading. And we can look at the current transits, what's going on up there, how they're specifically affecting your chart, and we'll consult the tarot too. We're going to go deep and pull some cards together. Much love to you, Cancer rising. I will be back here with you, same bat time, same bat station, for the Taurus new moon, which is coming up after this. So again, another moment that we can trust and start to sow some really practical seeds as Taurus would like us to. Enjoy Taurus season. Enjoy the reprieve from the mania that has been. I love you so much, Cancer rising. I'll speak to you soon. Bye. Hello, Scorpio rising. How you doing? I'm back. I know that eclipse season was pretty massive and we all needed some time alone to sit with this wounding that was being brought to the surface in order for us to hold it and be sweet to it and be sweet to ourselves about it. I also really understand how unjust and unfair and harrowing and worrying the last month has been, and the eclipses in all of their mastery showed us that in the patterns of the galaxy. I will remind you, Scorpio rising, that we don't do this stuff to predict the worst. That's not my bag. And it can actually be a pretty sinister rabbit hole if you start to attempt to predict the worst with this. This work is for a moment where you, 1, 2, 3 back in the room, are right here, right now. And you can check in with yourself, and you can check in with the patterns, and you can see what mirror is being shown. That's the best way to work with astrology, I think, especially during times of such tension. Now, I'm not sticking my head in the sand, and I'm not ignoring what is going on. I absolutely categorically will not predict the worst with this. So if the last month has been especially painful for you, or there's been things that were really coming out of left field that you hadn't thought about for a long time, that you felt this urgency to look at, if there were maybe relationships that needed to recalibrate and to change in order for you to move forward, then I'm here now with the astrology to give you a cooling balm and to explain as to how and why I can see that and I can register that for you. It's not about being a fortune teller, as much as that's really awesome, and full respect to fortune tellers and to soothsayers. But I think that that's the definition of my work is coming to me more and more. I think that I'm a soothsayer more than anything. I hope that you find some comfort in my company. Nothing more, nothing less. This is a moon that we can trust, Scorpio Rising, and it just so happens to be shining a spotlight on your first house of yourself, of your soul, of your yearnings, your inner promptings. You as an individual are being looked at right now at this time, and I can probably tell you for some pretty specific reasons. We know that Scorpio is really good at going there. When I think about Scorpio, I think about a really thick carapace of ice over very deep, deep water. Now remember that water in this kind of language means our feeling. It means our emotions. So Scorpios don't forget anything. Scorpios feel everything. However, with that iceberg or that carapace, that sort of, think about like a fishing hole, you know? That thick ice is protecting the vulnerable with a bit of frigidity, a bit of boundary, you know? Scorpio's job is to go there, is to go a little bit deeper and to excavate, to unearth, to redeem that depth. And right now, I think that there is a lot of us that could use your guidance, or could use the idea of looking to Scorpio as the first moon that we can trust for over a month now. How pertinent, what a beautiful poetic story that it's a Scorpio full moon. So all of us are looking for a reprieve, but are actually being encouraged to go a little deeper, but this time in safe company. It's lovely. Now, I'm releasing these on a pretty auspicious day, Scorpio Rising. So on the 21st of April, which is today, I think, if I get these out in time, there is a grand conjunction, which means there are two planets that are coming together at the same point in the galaxy that haven't come together for many years. I'm talking about Jupiter and I'm talking about Uranus. So Jupiter is growth and optimism. There's something about an expansive feeling that comes with Jupiter in a really hopeful, enthusiastic, encouraging way. Think about the visual of Jupiter. It's the giant gas planet with the big red spot on it, you know, one of the really big ones. Think about gas, think about expansion, think about looking at it and growing that. Uranus is the rebel, the revolutionary of the zodiac. Reason being is when technological advancement was savvy enough to see Uranus, it flipped the table on the human consciousness and its idea of our solar system. For the longest time, with the naked eye, we could see Saturn, and that was the outer limits of the galaxy. But then, with innovation, technological innovation, there was a lens keen enough to spot Uranus. all the way out there too. And so that's a great way to remember what the planet means. So looking at your birth chart, you'll see, where your Uranus placement is. But in this moment, today, Jupiter and Uranus are coming together. The last time this happened was in 2010 into 2011. It happened 3 times back then. It was something to do with their retrograde motion and then their forward motion. They sort of went backwards and forwards together and met up 3 times from June 2010 to January of 2011. And they were sort of crossing the threshold between Pisces and Aries. Pretty magical time. So I wonder if you can think about your life back in 2010 into 2011, and if you can register what sorts of kind of revolutions were occurring in your life. Looking at your birth chart, Scorpio rising, Pisces and Aries they sit at your 5th house of your creativity and your self-expression, and also your 6th house of your servitude. And so what I like about this story is the first coming together was in the 6th house of that repetition, bit of a revolution in either your work or in the way that you felt a bit sort of contained. And then the last 2 times that they came together was back in your house of individual creativity and self-expression. So I wonder if your life was going to a certain rhythm or was going down a certain pathway in 2010, 2011 that got a huge carpet pulled out from underneath it, and a bit of a revelation occurred to you, and you were like, oh, actually, no, that's not who I am. Sorry. Like, no shade. Love and light. But this is actually how I want to express myself. This is kind of the rhythm that I'm interested in right now. That's a really lovely story. And think about it this way. Think about from your life in 2010 around until now. This is the crescendo. This is like the final chapter. This is the page turning on that. And we're about to start a new story of revolution with Uranus and Jupiter in your 7th house of your relationships. You've just been through this massive period of eclipses in your 7th and your 1st house. You remember before the Aries and Libra mess, it was in Scorpio and Taurus. And so there was this kind of urgency for you to look at your relationships and how they've been working for you or not in this life. And now Jupiter and Uranus have come together, and they're starting off a new 14-year chapter of your life, Scorpio rising. It's pretty lovely. It's really optimistic. The one thing Jupiter is, sometimes it can overdo it, but if there's one thing that Jupiter is optimistic. So I wonder how your relationships will shape themselves from this moment moving forward as time goes on. I think it's pretty powerful. And I think that we've got a lot to hope for in that part of your life, Scorpio rising. It is such a lovely thing in retrospect to use astrology sometimes and to think about our lives, to really go back and be like, okay, so, 2010 was like 14 years ago. But really, I mean, I'm 40, so maybe you're not so old, but like that's a good chunky chapter. That's a nice moment to reflect upon. And that's also a nice moment to call it too, to be like, and that chapter of my life is coming to an end as far as my rebellion, perhaps, in the way that I've been expressing myself or my art. That's sort of, that it's actually a really nice moment to sort of look back and be like, wow, I really did so much. I did heaps. That was awesome. What an incredible chapter. Now I can really look forward to taking that imagery or taking this optimism into the way that I relate to people and how I actually have relationships. Perhaps there's something that can rejuvenate about your boundaries and relationships, or also about your willingness to perhaps chip away at some of that ice and to let some folks in too. What is common in the conversations that I've had with people I've read for and my friends and my loved ones is this vacillation that we all seem to be experiencing between urgently wanting to connect with others and absolutely not wanting to connect with anyone because we can't trust them. It's a real shame. And as much as astrology is a great tool for us to use, in part, we've also got to use our realism. If you read the paper every day, the headlines are telling you not to trust anyone. If you spend a lot of time on social media, your lingering thoughts about who to trust and who not to trust will only be reiterated to you. It doesn't matter, and you can. I'm speaking to everyone right now. I'm not being so specific as to a particular ideology, but whatever you are paranoid about is being reiterated to you right now through social media. And that's capitalism. That's because they want you to stay on more. That feeling that you get, and it's probably a lot of anxiety, but that's the feeling that they're relying on for you to stay there and to keep ingesting more. It's really sinister. I think there's something about like the finality of this moment. If we're going to consider today as the beginnings of a very long new chapter, there's something here about growth, and there is something here about trust as well, Scorpio Rising. Perhaps over the next chapter of your life, 14 years is a long time, there's going to be developments about your ability to trust others. Folks will show you that they can trust you through your rebellious spirit and your rebellious voice. You're going to attract people that see the truth of what you're saying, and they're going to stay with you, and you're going to stay with them. Maybe not forever, but there's going to be a coming back to trust after a time that has felt really on hold. It's a nice full moon, Scorpio. It's really nice that it's just that it's in your colors. You might find that too. It's on Wednesday, so see how you go. But whenever you notice the full moon, just register to yourself how many people have been like having really deep chats with you, or like phoning you up and it's been a long time, or there's been like a want, an urgency to reconnect, and it's felt good for you. It's kind of like it's your style. No crap for you. You don't want to do light surface stuff, and you'll probably find that not a lot of other people want to do surface stuff either. The King of Cups. So this is someone who is really adept, really, what's the word? Mastery, such as, mastery's got a very movable definition. This is someone who has really spent their life available to learning about their feelings, to learning about their emotional self. Their emotional literacy is really top-notch. And king, authority, there's someone here that's really reliable. And maybe you can emulate that feeling at this time, Scorpio Rising. I hope that you can feel available to trust your inner promptings, to trust your inner workings at this time. And I hope that you're more in touch with the truth of your emotions. I hope that we're moving away from the Knight of Cups, something a little compulsive, maybe, a little fraught, maybe, a little emo, absolutely. Now, this isn't to say that you're not going to be emo forevermore. I mean, it's kind of in your vibe. It's impossible to tell anyone in Scorpio land that they shouldn't be an emo. But you see, there's an upgrade here from knight to king. There's something about you being available to yourself and your emotional promptings, your emotional inner workings. There's something of education and being a bit savvier. And not savvier to sort of blot it all out. It actually looks like this optimism in the 7th house of your relationships. It's prime time. You might feel that you're in a moment where you're ready to re-engage. Perhaps you're ready to start using your beautiful vocabulary, your beautiful emotional vocabulary with those that you love. Perhaps there has been some people that you love that have been finding it difficult to understand because you haven't been articulating yourself. You've been frozen in a sense. The Strength card teaches us the true definition of the word strength, which isn't brute force, which is not violence, which is not tough love or machismo at all. The true definition of the Strength card and of strength itself is our vulnerability, is our gentility, it's our openness. When we can reveal parts of ourselves that are tender and that are delicate, time and time and time again, in the face of all manner of bombastic violence or hate or brutality or opinion. Time and time and time again, we choose love, we choose softness. We actually lean in to the other, to the oppressor, and we'll be like, I feel you, and I know that this is coming from fear. I can smell it on you. And I'm really sorry that that's your MO at the moment. I know that it won't be forever, but I'm here for you. The girl in this card is opening up the jaws of the lion. They're not frightened because they know the emanation of their emotion, of their feeling, their animal instinct is rubbing off on one another. The lion trusts this girl and no harm will befall her. Trust yourself, Scorpio Rising. Trust the ferocity of your emotions. Level them out and act from love. You're going to find it. If you've not found it already, maybe you have. But whatever you've got can be developed. And whatever you're looking for, you will find. So much love to you, Scorpio Rising. If you're still here, please put a scorpion in the comments for me in honor of yourself. If you'd like me to read your birth chart, I will draw you one. They look like that one over there. And you can make an appointment with me at my website, umaruby.com. If I have read for you before and you'd like to see me again, you can head to the Back for More tab and choose a growth, magic, truth, love, or femme reading. And I'll look at the current transits as they occur in our galaxy, how they relate to your chart. And you and I will pull some tarot together and read it with one another to answer your questions. Much love to you, Scorpio Rising. Enjoy the silvery glow of this full moon. What a relief. Lana Del Rey is a Scorpio Rising, FYI. And I don't know if you saw the Coachella performance, but it was the ultimate example of strength through vulnerability. It was a masterstroke. So if you've not seen that show, I encourage you to check it out. I'm going to cry. It was stunning. Much love to you. And I'll speak to you very soon for the Taurus new moon in May. Bye. Hello, Pisces Rising. Welcome to your reading for the Scorpio full moon. What a relief, right? finally, after a month of the most brutal, full-on eclipses, we have a moon that we can trust. We know Pisces rising, any Pisces, we love the moon. In tarot, it's your card, the moon card. So I would really highly recommend, no matter what you do, on Wednesday, the 24th of April, it's at 9:51 a.m. So probably actually the 23rd of April would be a great evening to get out underneath that moon. Even the evening of the 24th too, it's going to be big and juicy. It's exactly full at 9:51, but it's all right. Get out there, be a Scorpio, be emo about it, and cry your effing eyes out. I thoroughly recommend that. I intend to do just that. It's been huge. And I think that those eclipses in that conjunction with Chiron, that urgency to unearth these wounds that we've been carrying for so long, has been sometimes a little bit not invited. It's been really invasive at times as well. Ultimately, the reality of the moment that we're living through right now as well, Pisces rising, is intense. And I, for one, am not going to use the astrology to predict it and to be like, yeah, this is coming up, let's prepare for the worst. One of the privileges of being in a time and space with enough time and space to focus on the astrology is to give this moment its articulation. Like, wow, I'm really feeling this at present. I'm really feeling really vulnerable. I feel that there's all of this stuff coming up that I hadn't thought about for so long, and I'm feeling really unstable. The astrology mirrors that feeling back to us and says, yes, I completely understand. And look, this will occur until this point, and then there's a new cycle beginning. I'm releasing these horoscopes on a really auspicious day, Pisces rising. There's a conjunction, which means two planets coming together at the same point in the sky. These two planets have not come together for about 13 or 14 years. I'm talking about Jupiter, and I'm talking about Uranus. The last time that Jupiter and Uranus were in the same point in the sky was in the year 2010 through to 2011. In fact, they actually came together 3 times back then. The first time was in Aries in June of 2010, and then twice in Pisces in September 2010, and then New Year's Eve into New Year's Day in Pisces too. The feeling when Jupiter and Uranus come together is optimism, encouragement, expansion, and rebellion. So if you think about your life back then and think about your voice, what you were working on, where your life was leading you, think about those 2 houses, Aries and Pisces, being yourself and your money, which is actually the house that's encouraging all of this pain to be looked at right now. So think back to then, and there's a nice, what I've been doing in my own work actually has kind of been looking at the different perspectives on my life, to then as to now. And I've been thinking about where my life took me from then to now, insofar as my self and my creative outlet, my creative output, and my coin, how I was earning it, how I've kind of committed to earning it off my own back and my own interests since, much to a lot of peril, of course, which Chiron has highly pointed out to me this last month. But it's about perspective, isn't it? Jupiter's really optimistic, really wants things to grow and to expand. Jupiter's actually the planet that, as Pisces rising, will look to as being your guiding light in this life. Jupiter wants to encourage you, Pisces, to be your honest, true self and to really get to the bottom of some of those really magical, mystical, psychic connections that you feel, those moments in life where you're sort of like, whoa, that was intense. I never in a million years thought that this would happen to me, but it is. And okay, I'm going to keep my heart in good check, and I'm going to be a good person and emanate from that space, but I'm going to follow that pathway. That was my 2010, 2011 to the letter. The photos, the letters, the memories that I have of that time and what that moment was as a catalyst for my life moving forward up to this very moment has a lot of really fond memories attached to it. The thing about this cycle ending today is one thing. It provides a great time to look back with respect and with gratitude at an incredible era. It also has us look at the beginning of a new cycle. So Jupiter and Uranus are back together once more. This time it's in Taurus, your third house, your house of the goddess. This is the place where we enact private ritual. This is the place where we share our stories with our spoken word, with our language. This is actually a part of our chart where we recount what we know, what's happened to us. How do we turn that into an offering? This is where we let people know who we are, where we've come from. The third house is should be really welcoming. It should be a place where you feel that you belong, you know. Some of us have a trickier time than others, depending on what's going on in that third house. But let's look at it this way. This is the chapter that's starting. So if we zone in on this optimism, this growth, this rebellion on those topics of the stories that you're telling, it might be a lovely moment for you to start recounting what it is you've actually lived through and what it is, where life has taken you to this point. Sometimes in my mind, I get really trapped in lack and in worry. I get trapped in the future. And then that sometimes informs my perspective on the past because I'm worried about the future. I'm worried about, and you know, rightly so, let's have a look around. But I all too easily sometimes absorb all of that and then place the blame internally and then start that dreaded chat of disgrace inside, connected my opinion of my own self. And then that informs my perspective of the past. You shouldn't have done that, you idiot. Well, you've wasted your life. Why did you, what, you know, or winging a prayer. You've just been so obsessed or focused on this, you know, these things. But I encourage you, if that's how you've been feeling at the moment, Pisces Rising, is to actually list the things that you've been obsessed with or focused on. If they've been creativity, expression, connection, love, sexuality, art, pleasure, I would really have a look at that list and I would remark upon the fact that that is a powerful vocation. That's a powerful focus. It hasn't been on money or prestige or authority or privilege. It's been on something at a truer essence. It's been on something about expressing, about connecting through that expression, about feeling things out. I'd love for you at this Jupiter-Uranus conjunction today, and remember that it's happening today. It's going to be existing for the next week or so, but it's beginning a story. It's beginning a chapter. This is a cycle. So whatever is seeded in this moment for you in your psyche, in the perception of yourself, will carry that through for the next 14 years. This looks like finding a neighborhood. This looks like finding the folks that want to hear more. What other stories do you have? What can you tell me about? What have you lived through? Let's let's trade. You tell me, I'll tell you. This feels a lot about finding different ways to engage in healing yourself and providing service to healing others too. Storytelling is one of the most ancient forms of healing. To have someone tell you a story and for you to in some way relate that to your own experience, or even not so specifically, but just the emotion, the emanation of that story. That's why mythology sticks around, is because when our body relates to it, like, oh, I really register, I really resonate with that feeling, everything calms down. And we can move away from here, can't we? And we come back into the familiar, like, oh, that's why people say that feels like so much more than I think, I feel is a different way to respond to the world than I think. The stories that you've got to tell, Pisces Rising, I really can't wait to hear them. And I think that maybe if you could start to start to allow that in. This is a new cycle. As much as there's a new cycle every month with the moon, which we love, which we'll get to, I think it's really, really powerful for us to have a chat about Scorpio and about your 9th house as well. We'll get there. But we're kind of working in the other side, in the house of the goddess. Okay, I'll break it down to you this way. The full moon is lighting up your 9th house, which in the traditional astrology was called the house of the gods. So it's lighting up the place that is all about academia and all about sort of finessing your interests, finessing your skills, your voice, about writing things down, about going out and seeking a great teacher, about absorbing and becoming some sort of master in something, The 3rd house is that, but it's much more private, it's much more local. It's the house of the goddess. And this is the sort of access that I want to work on. I would love for you to be a real Scorpio at this time with this moon that we can trust. I'd love for you to really let it out. In tarot, it's the 5 of Cups that we're kind of working with. This moon is activating this card. It is the card of grief. It is the card of taking our moment to mourn what's been lost, what's been taken away from us. It also reminds us that there's 2 cups in the back there that are waiting for us. And all is not lost. When I think about this kind of feeling and the house of the gods, I do have this sort of melancholy feeling about achievements left unmet, or about sort of journeys not taken because of fear, or about kind of questioning your own intelligence too, and your own propensity to work in these circles, or to even have the brain that can, think philosophically. That's bullshit, because the house of the goddess is glowing right now on the other side. And it's actually interesting because the sun is at the 5 of Pentacles over there. So think of that face off. This will be a very emotional moon. No doubt there'll be a lot of room for movement, Pisces Rising. These 2 stories here, they do feel separate, don't they? I mean, this card in the 3rd house, this is very personal to me. I can really feel that image in my village. I've always found it very difficult to believe that I'm welcome and that I belong. This is where we move back to what's happening today, Jupiter and Uranus. The rebel spirit is coming up. It's being expanded upon. Jupiter is like your protector. So there's something here about the way that perhaps you used to tell stories, or perhaps the way that you used to use your voice. It's revolutionizing now. What's come to you? And think about the term goddess. Think about how you might speak to that topic. And I don't mind what gender you identify with. I firmly believe there's a goddess within each and every single one of us. And each and every single one of us has our own way of revering our own personal goddesses. But how is this all coming up for you at this time? What are the next 14 years of your life going to look like? What is going to be informing the next 14 years insofar as your language for the goddess? That's really exciting to me, Pisces rising, and full respect to this grief moment. Big respect. I will remind you that this is a moon that we can trust. So let it out. If it's been difficult for you for this past month, or there's been things you've been working on, but there's been sort of like, it's like, oh, no, oh, God, oh, that really, then this is the moon that will wrap you up in its beautiful blue glow. I've written down so much astrological stuff here. It's all right. Let's just focus on that for once, won't we? I'll see you again at the Taurus new moon, so don't worry. It'll be back to the fortnightly readings. Don't worry about that. Couldn't leave you behind. And also there's some, some patterns I just can't shake. I felt very strange. In this, not devoting my not devoting my time in the rhythm that I have been for the last couple of years. It did bring up for me a lot of personal things, and it didn't quite feel right. I actually love doing this. I don't like the way that I relate to a screen and how that addiction that needs to be nipped in the bud. And I know that by producing this stuff on a screen sort of adds to that. But the work itself, I really believe in. I'm actually claiming this moment for myself. Sorry to be so selfish, Pisces rising, but you understand. This Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in the house of the goddess feels really, really good to me, because I know that I'm good at telling stories. My whole life, that modality has changed, but it's always been about storytelling. And so from here on in, I'll be telling some more. The brightness of you, the part of you that glows, that emanates a feeling of confidence, Pisces rising, might actually be interesting for you to think about your sun sign. So we'll switch it out. We know that you're a Pisces rising, but think about where your sun was, what month you were born. Think about those qualities. Think about that side of you that's coming out. You may be reacquainting yourself with your ego. I know we're all doing our best to transcend the ego, and it can get us into a whole bunch of trouble. I kind of also believe that the sun is kind of like our vitality. It's the brightest part of us. We need that. We need that self-assuredness sometimes. When we're younger, the sun card speaks to that part of our journey too. When we were much younger, you'll probably find that a lot of kids really are playing full throttle with their sun sign. It's really obvious about them, unknowingly to them, of course, but like you can see there's sort of like, before we start to be labored with conditions or barriers or opinions, there was a part of us that was just like utterly ourselves and just like, yeah, what are we doing today? I'm up at 6 a.m. How are we spending today? Is it with Barbies? Amazing. Is it with this paint set? Amazing. Are we pulling all the cushions off the couch and making a fort all day? Incredible. I'll do the interior design. Whatever it is, whatever part of you was just glowing, it's kind of, we're being encouraged to come back to that. The defensiveness, that we've built up around us, and to protect us too. Like there's so many triggers that are going on for me very personally at present, and I am reminded of that calcification that sort of grows over time, that protection from the outside world. These tarot cards are sort of telling a story of sort of moving through that. And it's coming to a point which is back in Scorpio, but it's coming to a point of, I wonder which, where, how, could I, what's possible. There might be something that we can solidify in that wondering. Seven of Cups is cute, but it does leave us sometimes in a constant phase of like, maybe I could do, and that can't last forever. So perhaps the closing of this reading, Pisces Rising, is think about your ninth house. That's the university dropout. Okay, if that's your experience, it might not be. I went through uni, and it took me everything to tell myself to shut up when I was like, you're too dumb for this. It was a constant battle, and it follows me. In fact, in some ways it permeates and infiltrates my creativity too, because I'm always feeling like I'm being assessed. There's a lot to be said for the old systems. But let's back to Scorpio, back to this ninth house, back to your contribution, back to back to your expertise and your opinion around that topic, and back to the comfortable feeling of not choosing or not directing yourself, not picking a pathway, because that protects you from rejection, or that protects you from failure. You know, if you don't quite nail it, if you in this course and I'll do another year, I'll defer for another year, you know, understand it's sort of like, well, I'm limiting myself here because I just don't believe that what I've got to say is worth very much. That's the moon. So cry your tears. You know, if you're going through some hectic religious trauma too, like that's another thing the ninth can talk about is organized religion. So, you know, it's tender spot right now to speak about things like that. You know, we're all hurting and witnessing the hurt of those lines drawn in the sand. The house of the goddess is activated from today for the next 14 years. Your rebel spirit is growing inside of you. This time it's focused on the way that you tell stories. So think about 2010 and 2011. Think about how there was no stopping you and it was a bit of a wing and a prayer. Re-harness that, because we're starting it again. But this time there's something that feels a little bit sort of, I don't know, it feels more mature. It feels sort of more seasoned. And it's entering into the spaces where you tell stories and where you share what you know. So maybe uni life isn't for you. I know some of the smartest people I know never went, didn't even finish high school. So how are you telling stories from here on in? How are you worshipping the goddess from here on in, Pisces Rising? And how do you feel now that the moon is back in action and we can trust it? That's your reading, Pisces Rising. Look, I didn't cover any of the ins and outs. I'm kind of, can you just write to me in the comments and let me know what's better for you? Like, are my tangents good or not? Would you prefer to know on what date does this thing happen and why? Would you prefer more tarot? Yeah, just give it to me. Give it to me straight, and put a scorpion as well in the comments in honor of Scorpio. If you'd like me to read your birth chart and I haven't met you yet, and you're panting for it, I'll draw you one. They look like that. You can make an appointment at umaruby.com. Pick a spirit reading. If I have read for you before and you want to see me again and talk about how the transits in the astrology are affecting your chart personally, and you want to draw some cards with me that we can read together to answer your questions, you can pick a love, truth, growth, femme, or magic reading. You can do that over at Uma Ruby as well. Much love to you, Pisces Rising. Hopefully you can feel the snap that's back in my step just by recommitting to the process, you know. Sometimes that's all it takes. You just got to recommit to it. Yeah. You can be tempted to throw it all in the bin. You're not good enough. You're not smart enough. You're wasting your time. Sure. Allow yourself to have it out, but then recommit to it, because that feeling that you get when it's like, this clicks, this is what brings me joy. There's no reason in the world to ignore that feeling, you know? We'll pass out and unpick some of the paranoias that are attached to our joy spots because of finance. You know, if you sort of decide to earn all of your money from your joy spots, that can be a blessing and a curse depending on your circumstance. But I think there's a lot to be said for the culture that makes us all feel guilty if we're not being productive, and that failing for us to realize that these moments are so productive. Yeah. Anyway, I love you. Take care. I'll be with you in 2 weeks. Can't help myself, for the Taurus new moon. Much love.